500 returning travelers, and I can scarcely believe it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking around and listening to all these ideas, thoughts, and experiences around game development and video games in general. As thank you today, I want to share a little bit more about our game in development and the reasoning behind the design choices that we make. So, I've spoken before about our game being a vehicle combat type of game, centering around airships, so large airship to airship combat. And the design choice I want to talk about today is the match type. So, similar to other games out there, you have, let's say, two teams of several airships each, and they fight each other. Um, there's many more details when it comes to this type. Please let me know if you want to know something specifically about that. But one of the things we really thought about uh, extensively about how to deal with this matching type is the point of tiers. So in other similar games, you have vehicles that you unlock through various tiers in the game. So you start at tier 1 with a simple vehicle, and then you play for a little bit and you unlock a new vehicle that belongs to the next tier. So tier 2, tier 3, and so on. So several games in this genre follow this type of progression and this type of matching when it comes to online matches. But when we were looking at this type of segregating the players and the vehicles, well, the airships in our case, there were two problems that we experienced while playing all these other games, and we wanted to approach differently. Problem number one in this tiered system is that it forces a segregation on the players and the vehicles, right? So the problem that emerges is that, let's say, if the tiers are from 1 to 10, then players will be somewhere in that spread. It's very, very unlikely that players will be equally distributed in all of these tiers. What happens as a result is that there's going to be several tiers, either in the beginning or somewhere in the middle, where there's simply not as many players as in the more popular tiers, typically on the higher end. That means that depending on the time of the day, on the region you want to play, there's also region segregation. There might not be enough people to play with, or you end up playing with the same people all the time, or that there's simply not enough players to populate the match, and the game is forced to fill in all the slots with bots. Now, there's nothing necessarily bad about playing with bots if they are interesting enough in the way they handle gameplay, but usually most players think that playing against other players is the most interesting the game gets. So that's problem number one. So not having enough human players distributed across all the tiers, which might also lead to increased match finding times or making it impossible to find a match. And the other issue is the type of options that are available during these matches, assuming you go into a certain tier. So what I mean by that is, since all the vehicles are spread out through the tiers, for any given tier, you have typically only a fraction of the total vehicles available. So if we're talking about a tier 3 match, then you have tier 3 or similar vehicles available, but the ones from, let's say, 8, 9, 10, of course, are not available there. So there's a very limited selection in that tier versus what's available in the game. Of course, when that sort of tier segregation happens in other games, it happens for a good reason, right? It happens to limit the power level that's available. So a tier 10 vehicle fighting a tier 1 vehicle would be unfair. So that is why this happens in those games. However, when we're taking a look at this design option, we thought that that is true if all vehicles are separated by, let's say, a power tier. But if they weren't, what options would we have available for that? So if the vehicles all started from the same power level and had a certain progression they can make through the available upgrades and settings and so on each vehicle, then if it was possible to keep it all within the same spread and put more of an emphasis on gameplay and game style and play style rather than a hard parameter um, advantage versus other ships, then we could basically eliminate the need for tiers and reap the benefits of having all players play in the same tier, having all the vehicles available to them, and also the rest of the player base available to them. So that means that if everybody is playing on the same tier, there being only one tier in the game, then you could potentially match up against every other player that's currently online. And both to you and to other players, all vehicles or airships in our case are available to choose from. And that benefits gameplay because it makes it more varied, more unpredictable. There's more options for what the opponent might be using against you. There's more options about what your teammates might be bringing to the fight. And it makes consequent matches more interesting because there's simply so many more options to have in any given tier. One point that's worth discussing here is a type of, let's say, player skill segregation or player level segregation, if you want to call that. So what this talks about is, well, what if you have a beginner player who just started the game and is playing his first match versus an absolute veteran who owns all the ships and knows all the tricks and knows all the techniques and so on and is an absolute a monster in the battlefield? What happens then? Is it fair for those two players to fight together? Um, no, it's not fair. The player who is a veteran will obviously have an advantage. However, by having larger matches, so more players participating in a single match, there is sort of an even spread between the very highly skilled players and the lower skilled players. So even if one very highly skilled player is in the match, that doesn't mean it's all high skilled players versus all low skilled players. So when the player skills are mixed between the teams, then you can have a situation where yes, there's good and bad players on both teams, but it evens out because um, overall both teams have an approximately equal power level. Does that mean that matches are always going to be equal? Absolutely not. If you look at sports, there's never such a thing as an even competition. One team is going to be better than the other in some respect, and that is in fact the beauty of sports and competition, in my opinion. So that regardless of what base skill or base power exists in every player, in every team, it's all about this particular match, this particular turn of events, this particular combination of players on each team that produces a truly unique match that can never be repeated again. So yes, there's going to be players of different skill in every match, but by mixing them throughout both teams, then we can have a match that's both unique and also allows players to play with higher skill players and lower skill players and hopefully learn from both on their journey to mastery of the game. So this is our approach. This is our my quick update with you, revealing a little bit more about our game. Thank you again so much to the 500 returning travelers for enjoying this content. I'm looking forward to sharing much more details with you about our game, but also talking about many more things, many more topics on game development and game design and game playing in general. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As always, have fun.